Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 163 is out, and this was another solid chapter. Not only do we get to see more of Deodra and why he entered this tournament, which I do credit, it was very obvious, but the way it went about giving us this information and his reasoning was definitely very interesting. I'm curious to see how this will play out a bit in the future. We see Percival's full-on reaction. We get some more of the rest of Team Percival taking on these randoms in the area, with some honestly not too great humor, and then a revelation at the end with some really awesome returning characters from post-time skip that we haven't seen in a while. So needless to say, we got some good stuff this chapter. Before we jump into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to see me talk more anime and manga, go and check out the Shonen Post podcast, where me, Yatogami, Papa Trophy, and Nox talk about manga from multiple different magazines every week over on the Panel Focus YouTube channel. Link in the card above and the description below. And if you want to support the channel more directly, go and become a patron on my Patreon. For just $2 a month, you get access to my patron-only Discord server, early access to videos up to a week early that aren't chapter review videos, and other details where you can recommend me stuff to review. And I'm currently setting up stuff for potential live readings or watch parties on a bi-weekly basis once I get things figured out for that. You also get your name at the end of videos starting in September, and you can potentially get a shout out at the end of the video. I'm planning to make the Patreon and the Discord server as fun and as engaging as possible to make it worth your while. And also, if you want, go and use my referral link down below for Advanced GG and use my code GreekWeeb10 to get up to 15% off at checkout for some really nice supplements, shakers, and thermoses from Advanced GG. Really great flavors for focus, energy, and just straight up hydration. You will really enjoy it. Now with that out of the way, on with the video. So chapter 163 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Whirling Amid the Uproar, with the cover image just being the utter chaos that is literally the Gladiator Festival. As we start things off with a flashback at Ironside's house, asking who this child in his house is. Letting yourself into someone else's home, didn't your parents teach you anything? But Ironside's apprentices are kind of questioning what he means by this. Same with Deodra, wondering what's got it into Ironside. He even tells his apprentices to take the child out at once. Deodra is asking what's going on, asking him what's happening, but Ironside just looks at his son square in the eyes and says, "Quiet. I have no son that I know of." So this is definitely directly after the events of what happened with them getting the power of chaos. Obviously, the whole trade-off with them losing the memories of their loved ones is definitely a big price. And now Ironside is literally saying this straight to his son's face, the person that he has been fighting to protect this entire time. So definitely a bit of irony there. And it is kind of heartbreaking knowing this, because Deodra idolizes his father. And to see him like this, yeah, something definitely isn't right. Also, this is the first time we're seeing Deodra post-time skip. Obviously older. Design is relatively the same. But we then cut to a little bit after this interaction, where it seems that Deodra and the apprentices that are, kind of the aides to Deodra, are talking with Arthur, as Arthur is like, "Oh, so your father's acting odd, huh?" But what Arthur says to Deodra is interesting, because he flat out lies, saying that Ironside has concerned him for a while now, as he is a serious person, one dedicated to his mission. And with a somber look on his face, tells Deodra square in the face, "I am sure it has broken the mind of your father. His obsession over the repulsive Four Knights of the Apocalypse claimed him." As Deodra gets incredibly angry and starts to cry. So Arthur is manipulating Ironside's son to be another soldier for him to an extent. For all we know, he probably, now that he knows that Percival's alive, he might need more people in his forces, especially close to Percival, to try and deal with him on a more emotional level. Because now, he's flat out just lying, stating that the reason Ironside is the way he is right now is because he's so obsessed with taking out the Four Knights of the Apocalypse that he literally forgot everything due to stress or just his laser sharp focus, which is complete and total BS. But he's doing this to a distraught son who wants someone to blame, deep down, and by pointing the finger at the four Knights of the Apocalypse, this gives Deodra the motivation to basically go after the four Knights of the Apocalypse right away. At least harbor resentment, and this is definitely going to play into the rings from last chapter, as remember, only people with actual hostile intent towards these specific people will end up knowing who they are. It's only really affecting the Chaos Knights, because they know what the four Knights look like, primarily Beltrup, but Deodra doesn't know what the four Knights look like. And if he learns that Percival and Gawain and Tristan are three of the four members of the four Knights of the Apocalypse, this will end up breaking through that illusion from those rings and cause some actual trouble. So I'm curious to see where this is going to lead further down the road. But we cut back to the present, with Deodra just on his knees due to his sickness. As he states in his mind, the reason he entered this tournament is to get a wish granted. He wants his father to go back to normal, and he truly believes that Beltrup will be able to do it. As he states, he must win here no matter the cost. But Percival, in utter shock, asks him if he is Deodra, as then Deodra's two attendants end up trying to attack Percival to get him away from him. Percival dodges easily as they ask if Deodra is alright. As more gladiators end up trying to charge the group, as one of the guys with the goatee ends up saying something called Salvan and ends up having a giant handprint in the ground, and then all of the gladiators in the area are just blown square away, as they're wondering what kind of spell he's casting. But Percival can see it. It's not a magic spell. They're souls of life spirits. They're alive. And Percival tries to fight back, but even his, energy sword is starting to crumble because it's very tough. Which means this guy is also a type of spirit user like Ironside, and he's directly influencing life spirits in order to use this magic. Whether he knows this or not, we have no clue if the caster knows it or not, but that is very interesting. Percival is basically fighting his own kind in that instance, so that is very interesting. But Percival does get blown back by this explosion from the life spirits, as we then cut towards Nasiens in a giant skirmish, as the people he's fighting end up having trouble lifting their weapons, but then it's showing that their weapons are growing. But in reality, they're shrinking, as Nasiens unveils another new ability from his Misty Rain, Chicken Matango. And he says that drug will last about an hour. Enjoy being little until then. So my idea is that this is probably something that was used to create those pills that Diane eats so she can actually shrink down to human size. And Nasiens is using that to just make people shrink even more, because if it turns a giant like Diane into a human in terms of size, imagine what that would actually do to a regular person. So, pretty smart. Nasiens doesn't really have to do much fighting if he can do this. So all of his adversaries in his general vicinity are quite literally turned into little people right now. So they can't really fight or do anything. Nasiens won without having to actually fight a lot of these people. Now some of the randoms are like, oh, he uses poison. Let's cover our faces and go after him. And as they charge, Percival crashes in to basically throw those guys away, thanks to that explosion that knocked them back earlier. So he inadvertently saved Nasiens from a pretty tricky situation, which Nasiens probably would have been able to handle anyway. Percival gets up, laughs, and says, I just kind of got blown away there, huh? Nasiens is concerned for Percival, if he's okay. Percival says he's fine, but he notices that he doesn't see Donnie or Anne anywhere. They all kind of lost track of each other. But Nasiens notices Percival just in deep thought, wondering if something did happen. Obviously, Percival's thinking about what's going on with Deodra, why he's even fighting in this tournament, especially considering now that he knows the full backstory and context. Deodra has, actual health issues, and he's entering a pretty deadly tournament right now. So he's probably wondering why he's doing this, what his whole goal is. So, yeah. Also, people in the comments were like, with Percival's abilities, he might be able to heal Deodra's condition, which that is possible, and that would be pretty interesting if Percival does that to kind of help get Deodra on his side, or to come to an understanding for all we know. But, yeah. This is definitely weighing on Percival, because he's literally meeting his, pseudo-adoptive older brother to an extent, so that is definitely interesting to see, and I want to see an actual interaction between these guys. But Percival is just playing it off like it's nothing, as he says, for now, let's just focus on getting into the final 16 of this tournament. As the fight continues, we then cut to Anne, as she is holding her own against a huge group of gladiators, taking them out one at a time, as they just don't let up. Anne says, look at you guys, A bunch of guys ganging up on a singular girl. Don't any of you find that shameless? As then just one or two guys in that crowd just get thrown down to the ground based on her ability. And since they refuse to answer, her lying ability literally makes them like just crumble under that weight. As, yeah, a lot of these guys are kind of actual criminals. Of course, they wouldn't feel any actual shame in what they're doing, outside of a few people with some sort of morality. So yeah, On's ability is definitely overpowered if it's done in the right conditions, which we'll see right now. But On, kind of getting frustrated over the situation, just says a line I'm not going to say, saying that they're villainous, also potentially showcasing that some of these guys have, I don't know, women or mommy issues. As once she says this line, which I'm not going to say because I honestly don't think it's that funny of a joke, a bunch of these guys just end up getting pummeled to the ground under that weight. And she's like, huh, that many want that, huh? As then On's hit from behind, but is then saved by somebody else in clothing, bring their face. As this guy says, that was a close one. I'm on your side, I came to assist you in the fight. On says, I don't remember asking for any help, who are you even? As the guy just scoffs and says, no one worth remembering, as obviously he plummets under the weight of his own lie and refusal to answer due to the passive ability of On's magic. As she just says, stop acting cool and just give me your name, she lifts the obvious poor disguise and realizing it's Boris. And if we don't remember, at the start of the time skip, when we entered Camelot and first met On and Donnie post time skip, this was the guy from Camelot who was trying to escape and eventually learn the truth of what Camelot was truly about in terms of bringing people back from the dead. Now what's interesting is that I can't find an official English translation, but in volume 18 of Four Nights of the Apocalypse that literally got released about a week ago, I believe, 1 or 2 weeks ago, it was revealed in like a post story that it seems like not just Boris, but also seemingly Pelio, Hauser, Gother, and maybe Gila, and hopefully Thetis, are actually also entering this tournament to kind of figure some stuff out and get information, and they probably assume that Percival and the gang will probably enter this tournament as well. Now, I'm just getting this based off of accounts that kind of no one understands Japanese, but we haven't gotten an official fan translation for this. I'll probably make a separate video at some point on this. But if this is the case, then we basically have our full 16 for the most part, as we'll get into the last remaining members at the end of the chapter. But it'll definitely be huge, because then this whole tournament will literally just be people who are essentially on the same side, except for maybe like 3 or 4 people, which would definitely be pretty interesting to go for, unless we get some late game twists. But back to the chapter, Boris is unconscious due to On's ability. She tries slapping him awake, but as more and more people try and charge them as they're outnumbered, she picks him up and tries to go away. As then a massive explosion engulfs all these people in the area in an awesome 2-page spread, as these gladiators are wondering what's going on. As then some strange liquid then goes around some other people's faces as they all seem to drown, as 2 figures come walking in, saying, tight scrape, huh? You were part of Leonis's weakest core after all. Talking to On, as she just responds, hey, is that how you greet someone after all this time? As the person who did this water attack says, right, I'm sorry. But On, wiping away some tears in her eyes, smiles and says, but wow, I'm so glad to see you're safe. Chion and Isolde, as the final page of the chapter showcases the remaining members of the Tristan platoon, here with their post-time skip designs. Now then, I actually like these designs. Isolde, for obvious reasons, I don't know why Nakaba decided to cook with this design, as she looks more or less completely different from the pre-time skip. Like, god damn, man. That's really all I gotta say. I'm calling it now. This design, if it goes on Twitter, it's gonna get a bunch of simps at this point. And I wouldn't blame people. Isolde giving off some actual, like, Dami MILF energy at this point, which is just crazy to actually think about considering the type of character she was pre-time skip, which makes me question what happened during those 2 years, but hey, we'll just see what happens. And Chion cut that ridiculous hair. It's not that iconic, it's kind of a standard haircut, but he's got a scar over his left eye. He doesn't look nearly as annoying to me, which is crazy to think about. And he seemingly has his weapon on his back, which might be a a lance at this, I believe. But I just gotta ask, why make Shion of all characters look cooler? It's gonna make it very hard to shit on this guy whenever he makes two stupid decisions. And if he doesn't act like a prick, I don't know what I'm gonna do with the biggest running gag I have on this channel. It just baffles me to this point. But yeah, Isolde has the best design out of anyone post-time skip. I'm dying on that hill. You can question my reasoning, go ahead. It should be fairly obvious. But yeah, with the events of this chapter, we got conflict risen. We basically have all of Team Percival and Team Tristan here, plus Gawain, Boris, and Diordra's group. That makes 12 people for this whole confrontation right now that could potentially be in the final 16, with the remaining 4 either being other Chaos Knights, or, like I stated, if what I saw and was told about the extra chapter, bonus chapter of Volume 18, that we might see Gother, Gila, Pelio, and Hauser in this tournament, in this bracket as well, so that'd be pretty interesting to see how that would play out. But yeah, and Percival going through a lot of stuff right now after meeting his brother, a whole bunch of stuff, and also Arthur just continues to be a dick in what he's doing, and incredibly manipulative, and he's really building up being a villain right now, so I'm curious to see what's going to happen next. But that's all I gotta say about this chapter. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And once more, if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. I will never get over Isolde's time skip design. It is just that good. When Tristan gets his mind back, he needs to just literally go for it right now. Also, I didn't say this at the start of the review. This basically confirms that the Isolde Tristan was with previously is not our Isolde. Maybe a manifestation, maybe a fake. Who knows?